All right, we're back, and exciting news. Your pottery has officially been in the kiln, and now it's nice and tough. And when I say that word tough, I don't mean that it's not breakable. So it is going to be definitely stronger if you try to mold it. It's not anymore because it's gone through that chemical process of changing from that soft clay to an actual, like, more of a hard clay. In fact, if you hear it, that is the sound of the pottery. So now this is something that we call a ceramic piece. You'll notice that the color has changed. It's like a pinky kind of white color. Everything at this point is going to be final. If something has broken, it's not the end of the world. We can glue it on, depending on what it is. But if you have a handle, please be mindful not to hold it by it until we get the glaze on there. So there's a couple of things you're going to have you need to know today. A couple of rules that I really want you to be clear about. Rule number one is that you need to always have your pottery with two hands, okay? Even if it has paint on it and it's not quite dry, I would rather you get paint on your hands than for you to hold this very flimsily and it fall and break, okay? You are going to be traveling amongst the tables today because every table is going to have a different glaze color that you can use. So you need to be very cautious as you're moving across the room to make sure that you're not making a mess. So, breaking it. So now that we have this ware, if you remember, this is called bisqueware now. So we went through bone dry clay. It's been cooked one time, so it's called bisqueware. When it becomes bisqueware, then it's ready for it to be glazed. And this is what it will come out as. Luckily, Alondra from 5th period brought me a couple of pieces that she did. And you can see that these are all shiny. If you were to touch it, it's very smooth. But what's funny is the glaze that we use actually is going to be very deceiving. It's going to look chalky and boring and not so pretty, but the moment it goes back into the kiln, it will go through another chemical state change and it'll convert to glass. So basically glaze is like a fancy word for glass, whatever. But every table can have a different color. Right now I have turquoise. Turquoise is very similar to this blue color. And when you open these, they should be open all the way, and Miss Brock did not get one that were open. Luckily, we have Kim and Miss Betty in the back who are helping to get these open for you guys. So let me actually get one that's open. 2 seconds. Oh, Leslie? Oh, curses, I always call. Okay, sorry. It's Leslie, not Kim. I always want to call Kim Leslie, Kim. They sit by each other. So here's what glaze will look like. Now this color, if you look on the front, it actually says navy blue, but it does not look like navy blue. It's not going to change that color until you go back into the kiln. So the main thing that you need to know about glaze is a couple of things. Number one, this container is pretty full. So once you take out the basket, I ask you to place it on the table and then leave it there between you and 2 other people. Another thing is that paintbrushes stay with the glaze. They do not go with you to other tables. And that is because if you get blue inside of black, it contaminates the glaze and it will change the color. So it's really important that you just use the paintbrushes that are there. Also too, it's important that you do layers. If you look at Alondra's work, not to hate on Alondra, but you'll notice that some pieces are kind of thin. You can see through here. And that's because it doesn't have enough layers. So when you're coming to glaze, you want to think of it like icing a cake. You dip your brush in, and you'll notice there's a lot of drips. So you want to wipe off the extra. And then you're going to put on a layer, okay? And you want to put on like a thin layer. You don't really need to apply it thick. It's better for you to do a layer, let it dry, and then do another one. Now, as you watch this process, and notice I'm going to take my paintbrush, and actually there's a little lid here. See the lid? Please put your paintbrush on the lid and not in the container because it wastes it. If you watch this, you can already see the glaze is already drying. And the reason why it's drying so fast is because this pottery, we took out all the moisture, right? And now it's super thirsty. So it's just soaking up all the moisture, and you can tell it's still wet because it's still shiny here. But once it gets dry like that, then it tells you, hey, I'm ready for another layer. So you can dip it, and I'm going to use a lid this time, and do another one, okay? Now, glaze is a little finicky. If you add too much glaze, when we put it back into the kiln, it's going to drip down and can get stuck to this kiln. So we want you to go in layers. Let it dry. Where it's dry up top, I can come and add another layer. But you definitely want to at least minimum add 2 layers per color. Now, you can get creative. Once you're done with this blue, leave your paintbrush here, and you can go to another table and take another color and paint it on top. Kind of what Alondra did. You can see she put a little bit of yellow. She actually put a little bit of pink on here. The colors, when you layer them on top, you're not so sure if it's going to change in a certain way. So you want to be kind of open to how it may come out. So your goal is to paint everything. The only rule is that no one's allowed to paint the bottom. No, and I repeat, do not paint the bottom. And the reason why is because when you put it back in the kiln, when it starts to heat, all this glaze all starts to change into the glass, and it actually acts like a glue, which is really good for if a piece of yours is broken. It'll help to repair it. But it also will glue this to the kiln shelves, which means the only way for me to remove it is to actually break your piece. So we don't want that to happen. We legitimately want for you to keep this safe. If you get a little bit on there by accident, no big deal, we can wipe it off, but I don't want you painting and painting and painting it and then us having to spend a lot of time having to take it all off. So today, starting to glaze. Remember, we have time, so take your time, don't rush it. I would like for you to do the inside, outside, all the outsides, and just have fun with it. Paint different sections, different colors. You can move between tables as much as you want. All right?